A warm welcome to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. If it's your first time here, please make yourself at home. If you need anything, please let any of our monitors know. The monitors are in the very back. You see Radha Kripapu if you need any help or information, he'll help you. We'll also soon have, in a few minutes, a table out in front for information if you need any help. Also, Manjula Kanta in the front in the yellow, she can help you. Anybody who's new, you can approach her and ask her for anything you like. Thank you. ISKCON of Silicon Valley is part of ISKCON, which is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And it was founded by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who took the order of his guru in India and came to America. It was his first voyage here on a cargo ship. And alone he established himself in New York City, and gradually, through using very simple principles, that is, chanting publicly and also giving classes publicly that people could attend and listen to the Bhagavad Gita, he got a following of very enthusiastic young people who then spread out throughout the world and took the initiative to help spread the Krishna consciousness movement. Sort of come full circle. One of the second places in the world that he started a community for Krishna consciousness was in San Francisco. And here we are in Silicon Valley. We also have a community growing in San Francisco as well. And of course now, in those days, there were very few people of Indian origin, except for the founder. In fact, he used to bemoan the fact that it was hard to get anybody from India to join the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And now it's kind of the opposite. So Silicon Valley, we've been here since 1997, ISKCON of Silicon Valley, and in several locations. We've always credited people with being intelligent if they could actually find where we are. And we've been in this location for about 7.5, 8 years now. So welcome. Those who have joined us online, thank you very much for your kind attention. We're going to have a kirtan. As I mentioned, our founder started the Krishna consciousness movement through a practice called Sankirtan. So kirtan means to make somebody famous, because the word kirti actually means fame. Or you could say to glorify someone, appreciate in words, in singing. And the first part of the word samkirtan means together, to do it together. And so this is a process that was handed down to serious practitioners of bhakti around 500 years ago by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam and in other Vedic literatures as being the most recent avatar of Krishna in the world. And unlike many avatars of Krishna or Krishna himself, he came in a covered form. And that is, how is he covered? He came as his own devotee, to teach the process of devotional service, just as much as when a child learns to write, the teacher or parent might take the child's hand and on the blackboard with a piece of chalk guide the child's hand and write ABC. One shouldn't think that the teacher is learning ABCs, rather is teaching the student. So we call this the Acharya Lila. That means it's Krishna's way of teaching everybody in the world how to enact the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. For instance, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mami vaishyasi yuktaivam atmanam parayanaha. He said, think of me always. become my devotee. Worship me, offer your obeisances unto me. So how does one practically do all those things? What is the form of worship? How does one think of Krishna? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 500 years ago, Krishna himself appearing as a devotee of himself, taught the process of devotional service. That time, Sankirtan wasn't known well or popular. And in a place in Bengal called Navadvip, at the home of one of his followers named Srivas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started a private kirtan. They kept the doors closed at Srivas Pandit's house. Only the most qualified by their sincere devotion, could come in and practice this Sankirtan together. When did they do it? At night. Of course, they do it all night, and then the next day, they'd go to work. So for a whole year, they performed Sankirtan. And after a year, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked everyone, please go out and do it publicly on the street corners and throughout the towns so everyone can hear it. And what do you think happened then? Well, I can tell you in the long, rich history of the Krishna consciousness movement, of which I've been privy to for around coming on 50 years, something that happens in a lot of places when we go out to chant or even stay in to chant, is somebody called the police. In fact, I was in Tokyo a couple of years ago as the home of some wealthy diamond merchants who wanted to have kirtan in their house. And people got really excited there and were chanting really loudly. And the police came. And I said, well, now you're an official Hare Krishna center. The police threatened that you shouldn't have kirtan, it's not authorized. It was actually the local Hindus who called the police, as they'd never heard of such a thing before. And the police came and said, no more of these drums like this. This is why we still use these drums as a form of protest against the police back then. Not now, we love the police, in case anybody's watching. But they broke these drums. They're made of clay. And when a cow departs naturally, then they take the leather and they make this drum called a khol. So that was the instrument of choice back then. We've just carried on the tradition using these traditional instruments for the Sankirtan, although you can use any instrument you wish. And after they broke the drums, they went back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is, after the police broke the devotees' drums, told them you can't do it anymore. They all went back and reported it to their leader, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he said, keep going out. And then he organized, did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a civil disobedience movement that involved tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands of people who marched, playing the drums, singing Sankirtan, and they went to the house of the governor. And there was a historic meeting between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the governor, and they talked about philosophy. And the result of that meeting was that the governor said, from this day forward, everyone who wants to can have Sankirtan in my town. No one will stop them. And that edict has held to this very day in the district of Nadia. Anyone's free to have Sankirtan. Of course, here in America, we're lucky because we have very liberal laws. This being kind of a revolutionary country. We broke away from the British Crown a couple hundred years ago and gave everyone, supposedly, the right for religious freedom. And therefore, there are many liberties here that you don't get in every country. For instance, you can't take one of these and a party of singers downtown Kuwait and chant, or in Saudi Arabia, China. No, you can't do this in China publicly. There are restrictions in many other places, even in other so-called liberal places, they come and move you along. America, you can get moved along, but it's pretty easy to establish that this is a religious process and that everyone should be able to do it. So we should consider ourselves fortunate, all of us, that we're here in America where we have freedom. Prabhupada, our founder, mentioned it many times that they didn't try to restrict him here, even though he had a new movement, although we were harassed from time to time, as is the custom when you start Hare Krishna chanting, to be harassed. But all in all, it's been very successful here in America. That is in being able to practice this form of spirituality that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started many years ago. So the way it works, according to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, quoting from the Vedic Shastras, is that Krishna and Krishna's name are the same. Where is that stated? In Srimad Bhagavatam. For starters, it says, Apana samsritim goran yandama vivashogranan tata sadyo vimucheta yad bibheti swayam bhayam. And that means that there's no difference at all between Krishna and his names. There are many other verses that describe how Krishna and his name are the same. And this means that anyone can take advantage of the process of Sankirtan. No matter where you are, you can be a person who lives in the country or in the city. You may live alone or with many people. You may be rich or poor. It doesn't matter what background you're from. It's a non-sectarian process. Anyone can chant Hare Krishna. It's nice if you get a few friends together and you can clap your hands or you can play musical instruments if you have the wherewithal to do that. And you'll find that the result is the same, and that is whoever participates in this activity will feel natural happiness coming from the spiritual level of life, the spiritual platform of life. What's more, there are collateral benefits. One is that we gain detachment from the world. That is a sense of perspective that allows us to give up bad habits. Anybody ever try to give up bad habits? You don't notice till you try to give them up, that they're so strong, right? But when you practice Sankirtan, you'll notice that you have some inner strength that you might not have felt before. That comes from the divine. It comes from Krishna. So that's good, right? Say yes. Yes. And then you also get knowledge. Knowledge is a concomitant benefit that you get from chanting Hare Krishna. So what does knowledge mean? It's stated by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, Kshetra Jnam Chapi Mam Vidhi Sarva Kshetri Shubharata Kshetra Kshetragna Yogyanam Yatach Jnana Matam Mamai. Krishna gives his definition of knowledge. Would you like to hear it? He said, one who knows the difference between the field and the knower of the field is somebody who's in true knowledge. The body is the field, we're the knower of the field. How often do you think about that in any given day, 24-hour period? Do you notice the difference between yourself and your body? Approximately how long? How many times do you think about it? All day long? Once or twice? Twice during the day? Can you skip a day and forget about it? Skip a week? Skip a month? Skip a year? How about a decade? How about a lifetime? Then you have to start over again. And so Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, Yang yang vapi smaran bhavam tajyante kalevam. When you give up the body and you're no longer in control of your faculties, you're handed over to the system of material nature. It's very powerful. And we're carried away to our next destination depending on the kind of consciousness we've developed. So the kirtan helps us to develop the higher consciousness. You don't have to do anything separately. You don't have to sit on a mountaintop, or you don't have to drill your respiration. Nothing wrong with these things. But everything good comes from the process of chanting Hare Krishna, including knowledge and unattachment to bad habits. So let's try it. We'll sing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra preceded by a couple of prayers asking for permission to chant such an elevated mantra. Does that sound okay? Yes. Okay. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Sri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo. Nitai Gaur Premanande, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Shri Harinam Mahamantra Ki, Shri Harinam Prabhu Ki, Gaur Premanande. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo. Before I take up tonight's subject matter, which happens to be Krishna consciousness, I offer my respects to my Guru, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to all the previous teachers who have passed down the teachings of Lord Krishna from the beginning of creation. And I offer my respects to all of you. Thank you very much for your sincere practice of Krishna consciousness and for coming here tonight and filling up these 4 walls with transcendental sound vibration. Any place that we go in the world is transformable. Actually, the whole material world is like a iceberg floating in an ocean of transcendental substance. It's in a temporary state of being frozen and misused by wrong intent, and therefore what is normally free spirit becomes a clunky kind of energy, full of ignorance. And so our minds also become like that, called jada buddhi. The mind becomes connected to the darkness of the material world and also becomes dark. So Krishna consciousness means to come towards the light. Tamasi ma jyotirgamai. This is the admonition of the ancient Vedic teachings, is that try to go to the light and try to, again, enter into that free world where we're not bound to the laws of nature and restricted. So we can transform anything in our lives through the process of Krishna consciousness, just as if you take an iron bar and you put it into hot fire and you keep it there for a long time, keep the fire going, then after some time that iron transforms into fire, becomes red hot. You can't see the difference between the fire and the iron bar when it's in the fire. So whatever we have in our lives, if we engage it in Krishna's service through the process of Krishna consciousness as taught to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, mostly recorded in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, he taught his various disciples meticulously. For instance, Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, the teachings that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave are recorded, and you can go through them. They're systematic. They talk about the way that we can start devotional service, the way we can maintain it, and also describes what the goal is. And one of the very simple principles is based on this using whatever we have in Krishna's service. So we need, first of all, or it's extremely helpful to develop an understanding of our relationship with Krishna. And one of the aspects that is easily accessible by thinking about it and noticing how our lives go from the very beginning, when we're in the womb until we leave this body, that we're maintained, we're being maintained. This is a major point in devotional service. In fact, it's one of the main elements of being able to connect with Krishna and to be able to take shelter of him. There's a path called Sharanagati, which means the sixfold path of taking shelter of Krishna. And this aspect of taking shelter of Krishna is in contemplating, first of all, how I'm being maintained by him. So one of the very old literatures from the Vedas says, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidhati Kaman. So first of all, this is an important verse because it establishes that there is a plurality of eternal beings. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Na tve vahum jatunasam, na tvam nemi janadipa, na chaiva na vishama, Sarve Vayam Ataparam. He's pointing out to his student, Arjuna, that all the living beings, the way you see them now as individuals on the battlefield at Kurukshetra, will remain individuals. Whether they're in this body or another body, it doesn't matter where they go, they're still individuals. So this is what the ancient Upanishad is saying, Nityanam, means there's a plurality of eternals. So just take a moment to notice that you're an individual. You can check it out. You've got a body, and you have individual consciousness right now because you're aware of your body, but I'm not aware of your body. In fact, somebody probably in the other room maybe just, stepped on a garbanzo bean. That's a chickpea, hard one, and it, hurt their foot, but it doesn't hurt me because I'm not aware of their body. I'm just aware of mine. I have an individual realm and awareness. However, there's another individual being that's super conscious. I'm conscious. The other being is super conscious. He's conscious of everyone's stepping on a chickpea. I'm not. Only mine. And so, Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam. They're all conscious. We're all conscious beings, but one's supremely conscious, and we have a limited realm of consciousness. Now, the other part of it is that that supreme consciousness is maintaining all the individual living beings, the plurality of living beings. And this is where we can notice that we're being maintained. So if you'll look up in the Bhagavatam on 7.9.20, we'll just have a look at a verse that happens to be spoken by Prahlad Maharaj, where he says, Yasmin yato yarhiyena cha yasya yasmad, yasmayata yad uta yas twapara parova, bhava koroti vikaroti pratak sabhava, sanchoditas tadakilam bhavatak svarupam. And the translation is, my dear Lord, he's speaking to Lord Nrsingadev, the half-man, half-lion incarnation who came to save this pure devotee boy. He was 5 years old when he spoke this. Everyone in this material world is under the modes of material nature, being influenced by goodness, passion, and ignorance. Everyone from the greatest personality, Lord Brahma, down to the small ant, works under the influence of these modes. Therefore, everyone in this material world is influenced by your energy. The cause for which they work, the place where they work, the time when they work, the matter due to which they work, the goal of life they have considered final, and the process for obtaining this goal, all are nothing but manifestations of your energy. Indeed, since the energy and the energetic are identical, all of them are but manifestations of you. So it doesn't mean that we're the same as Krishna. We're simultaneously one and different. The way that a particle of sunshine, a photon, is the sun, but it's only a part of the sun, but at the same time, it's called the sun. If a sun ray comes through the window, you say, oh, the sun has come in, but it's not the whole sun. It's part of it. So we're similarly parts and parcels. And the point of this verse, and the reason I brought it up is, I always find it fascinating to consider that whatever engagement we have, the work we have, the paycheck that comes in, did the paycheck come in? You notice that, right? The paycheck comes in. You even know the color of the envelope. You can smell it when it comes to the door. That's it. And so all of that is Krishna's energy. It's connected to Krishna, and it's coming from Krishna. So this is a step in developing awareness that everything I have, everything that is around me, is actually Krishna in one way, because the energy and the energetic are non-different. And whatever kind of situations I have in my life are due to different combinations and permutations of Krishna's energies. So we're always with Krishna. Krishna's always with us. We're never, ever separated. And every situation in our life is reasonable in the sense that there's an exact cause for it. Where I am now, what I have, what I don't have, all this is a matter of the divine energy of the Lord moving in my life and me being moved by that divine energy. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, for example, Daivahi esha gunamahi, mama maya duratyaya. He says that this energy that you're dealing with, consisting of the combinations and permutations of the modalities, goodness, passion, and ignorance, sattva, rajas, and tamas, he calls it daiva. It's divine, because it's Krishna's energy. Daivahi esha gunamahi, mama maya duratyaya. And he says it's very difficult to overcome or to deal with. Have you found that to be true to any degree? A little bit? Just a little bit, right? Not very much. It's pretty much easy most of the time. Yeah, so Daivesha Mama Maya Duratya, he says it's a Duratya. It's very difficult to manage this energy. It's divine energy, and it's difficult to overcome. Mamevaye prapadyante, he suggests that the only way to actually overcome the influence of the energy is prapadyante, is take shelter of me, become aware of me, take to Krishna consciousness. Employ this process of Krishna consciousness in your life. Mamevaye prapadyante, mayam etam tarantite. Then taranti, you can cross beyond the dualities of this world and the trouble that comes with it. Okay, enough for trouble. Let's talk about the actual process. So, well, let's talk a little bit more about Krishna's maintenance. We know that we have various gifts that we are given by nature. What are some of the gifts that you naturally have when you come out of the womb? Air. You get free air. Except maybe in Delhi or Shanghai. Huh? What? China. I said Shanghai. Yeah. Okay. What do you get free? Like, when you buy a car, did anybody here ever buy a car? Yeah? Did they tell you all the extras they're throwing in? Did they give you the undercoating? For free, I hope, right? No? Had to pay for that. What do you get standard on it? Air conditioning? Electric windows? Anything else? Tires, free tires. So what comes standard on the human body? Name a few things. I'll help you out. Okay, good. You're doing good. Free. It's thrown in free. It's standard equipment. So you get all this stuff. So is it mine? No, it's not mine. It's a gift. In fact, my very life is a gift. My consciousness is a gift. The fact that I'm living, I'm being maintained by a higher force. This is Krishna consciousness, very simply. It's non-sectarian. It has to do with an awareness that I'm not the supreme controller. There is a God and I'm not him. And that I'm being maintained. So, Krishna, in speaking to his friends one day in Vrindavan, said, Etavaj janmasapalyam dehinam ihadehishu pranar atar diyad vacha shreya acharanam sada. He gave this advice that is for everybody. You want to hear some advice directly from Krishna? Yes. While he's walking in Vrindavan with his friends? Yes. That you can apply in your life and you'll be happy all the time? Yes. Sorry, we're running out of time. Can't tell you. Okay, so the way it goes, Etavaj janmasapalyam dehinam ihadehishu. He says, you should use your life, all your activities, shreya acharanam sada, how? Always, in all cases, all circumstances. If you want to have perfection, sapalyam, in your life, then you should use it to do good for others. Now, he gives the different categories of gifts that we've all been given to one degree or another that we can use. He suggests here are some of the assets that you should use for the benefit of others, to do good for others. Are you ready? Yeah. Okay, so he says pranayar means your life. You should use your life. What's your life? It's your ability to move around and breathe, and you're a conscious living being. You have free choice. You can use your life, which is a gift, to do good for others. How does that sit with you? It's okay? Not bad? You're okay so far? Okay. Next one. Artar means money, cash, gold. Any wealth that comes to us. Did any wealth ever come to you? A little bit? Okay. Lot? Yeah. See me after. Prana artar. Too much? Really see me afterwards. Okay. Prana artar means wealth. You get arta. You get some wealth that comes. Does everybody get wealth? No. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once told his followers, just after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas. Sannyas means that you just step away from everything and depend on Krishna fully. And so he invited his followers to come with him on a walking journey. And then after they were a mile away from the town, he turned around and said, "Did any of you bring anything with you?" And they said, "No, you didn't tell us to bring anything, so we didn't bring anything." He said, "Very good. I want you to look in the world and notice one thing." He said, "The Lord has filled up the world with food and money, but people can only get what they deserve." Have you noticed that? Otherwise, everyone in Silicon Valley would be a multimillionaire, right? But you only get a certain amount. It's like, why doesn't it go above this amount? It's like, could I have this amount as an income? It's like, no, we're going to give you this. So your wealth, it comes as a stipend from material nature. We're given a little stipend. If somebody could look that word up and see if I'm using it in an appropriate way. We're allotted a certain amount of wealth that comes into our life. And so Krishna says, use that to do good for others. Pranar, your life. Artar, dhiya. Dhiya means your intelligence. So where does your intelligence come from? Krishna. Where does Krishna say that in the Bhagavad Gita? You tell me and we'll sing the song. 15:15. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattaksmitir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarver ahameva vedyo vedanta kridveda vedeva chaham. So in this verse, Krishna says that I'm in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So the intelligence that we get to do anything in this world, to write a paper, to drive your car, to wake up in the morning, to make idli. It takes a lot of intelligence to make idli. It doesn't just happen by itself. That power is coming from Krishna. He's giving the intelligence. So Krishna says, dhiya, use that dhiya for shreya acharanam sada. Always use your intelligence to think how to do good for others. And then vacha, the last thing. What does it mean?
A stipend means a fixed regular sum paid as a salary or allowance.
Yeah. Where does it come from?
It comes from Latin, so stips and pendre, which means wages to pay. And then it turned to stipendium. And now stipend comes now from late Middle English.
Okay. We get wages. Narada Muni mentions this. He says, Tasyaiva heto prayate takovido na labhyate yad brahmatam upariyada ta labhyate dukhavaranyata sukham kalena sarvatra kabira rambhasa. He mentions this principle that kalena sarvatra kabira rambhasa, that what you're getting, let's talk about arta, your wealth, it's coming as a kind of stipend, a wage. It's kind of like Social Security. We have that in America. Have you heard of it? Yeah. You have? Okay. So Social Security, I know you're all kind of young, you don't get it till later. So Social Security, you pay into it when you're working, And then later on, according to how much you paid in, that's how much you get back in your Social Security check. And I don't get much because I never really worked in my... I didn't have a job, except for this, mostly. I had a business for 10 years, but I didn't pay in a lot throughout my life. So I don't get a large Social Security payment. But other people get a much larger one because they paid into it. So similarly, in our arta, our wealth, if you paid in a lot in a previous life, then through the cosmic Social Security system, in your next life, you get a stipend. And that's your stipend given to you by the universal government. And if you go ask for more, they'll say, why? You didn't pay in. So the Kalena Sarvata Gabira Nambasa, in due course of time, you're going to get your stipend. It's already there. I mean, they practically force you to take Social Security and Medicare and all that kind of stuff. They keep writing you and saying, sign on, take it, and so forth. So this is, we get, according to our previous activities, a certain amount of arta. So Krishna says, use that, Shreya Asharanam Sada. Use that as a way to do good for others. And then he says, that if you do that, itavaj evasampalyam, then your life will become perfect by this simple formula. So this really encapsulates the process of Krishna consciousness. We have assets that are allotted to us, that have been given to us as a gift: our very life, our wealth, our intelligence, and our words. Human tongue is very important. It's not like other tongues. This is mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat that there are other animals that have tongues. For instance, the parrot has a tongue, but it doesn't, unless you really train it up to the Vishnu Sahasranam Stotram, maybe the first half of the line or something like that. And probably not really clear on what it means. There are other animals, hundreds of thousands, and they have tongues, but they're not able to enunciate and say mantras or say prayers, meaningful prayers. So they're also not so equipped for using language in such a way as to do good for others. So here's our realm. We have a gift in human life that we can become aware of, and we can also use to serve and to do good for others. So I'll say the verse again. Etavaj eva sampalyam dehinam ihadehishu pranar artar dayavacha she acharanam sada. Always do this, Krishna told his friends. And he meant it according to the acharyas who comment on his words for everybody, for all of us. So this is what we do here at the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We organize our assets that we have. What are they? Number one, life. You got your life. Number two, wealth. Number three, intelligence and words. If you use these in such a way as to do good for others, then your life will become happy and successful, productive, perfect, according to Krishna. Now, one more point. What does it mean to do good for others? If I just make it up, invent ways to do good for others without understanding actually what's the best thing to do for people, I might make a mistake. For instance, sometimes, well, I'll tell a story. Srila Prabhupada, our founder, Acharya, my guru, had said one time in his neighborhood, he heard some commotion going on at the neighbor's house. And he asked his servant what happened, because everyone was talking about it. And it turned out that one of the boys in the household had become sick. And the doctor had said, don't give him any solid food because it can make him sicker. So the younger brother, after the parents had left, thought that he would do a compassionate act by giving some solid food to his older brother. Ill-advisedly, he did it, and the brother got sicker. And then the mother was scolding the youngest one severely, but he did a good thing. He was trying to help. So we're advised, that's passive voice, but the Shastra's advice, that we find out how to do good for others. Then you've really got something. You've got the assets, to whatever degree you have them, and you've also got a target, a way to do good for others that's recommended, specifically recommended by the infallible guidance of Shastra, which means the scriptures, those that advice which is passed down from Krishna, and those who are beyond the defects of the material world. So if you put those two things together, then you really have, with pinpointed accuracy, a way to move about in the world and be completely successful. Now, there was a seminar that took place at Naimisharanya, which happens to be, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, the very center of our universe. We're in the middle, actually. We're in a middle planet. Ground floor, actually. There's a basement, and then there's upper floors. So we just happen to be on the ground floor, which is good, because from the ground floor of a building, you can actually get out. You may have a penthouse, but if there's a fire or something like that, it's really hard to get out of there. And in lower, you have to come up. Right here, we got the exit door, really close to us. This earthly region really is, it's not too nice, in case you haven't noticed, and it's not that bad either. Of course, we're in California. So we have this sort of mixture of good and bad. We're right in the middle. It's a middle place. You can try to make it a little bit better. You can move down to, I don't know, Carpinteria and Santa Barbara. It doesn't get much better in the Bay Area, though, actually, except now there's no rain. The material world, especially in this middle region, there's always some defect. That's to keep us on our toes. So at Naimisharanya, which is the very center place of the universe, a group of sages held a seminar 5,000 years ago. And they discussed this very topic that we're talking about tonight. And would you like to hear the results of the seminar? Okay. So there was a facilitator at the seminar. And he asked the main speaker to talk about what's the best thing you can do for everybody so they can be benefited in the best way. Isn't that a good question? It's a good seminar, right? What can we do so that everyone gets the highest benefit? And they came up with an answer. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir hoksije ahaitu kiya pratyata yayatma suprasidati. And that is to give people an opportunity to practice devotional service and in a way that's uninterrupted and unmotivated. It means you're not asking for anything in return. You're not teaching people that if you worship the Supreme, then you're going to get a new car. And don't ask for material things. Just serve out of a sense of love. That's the highest motivation for it. And if you do that and you organize your life so that you can do that all the time, in other words, you can connect it with the other work that you have to do in the world to stay alive, and you can do it wherever you go at all times, he said, then you'll be happy. And that's how to make other people happy also. So now you have these two concepts. One is a direct order from Krishna that says, use these assets that you have. By the way, they're not even ours. They're just loaned to us for a little while. If you use them preemptively now while you have the opportunity, and you use them to do the highest, make the highest benefit in everyone's life that you possibly can by using them to help people become spiritually aware and come to their natural state of consciousness, we call Krishna consciousness, awareness that we're maintained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that He's our ever well-wisher, that whatever we do in life, if we do it for Him, then we'll feel satisfied, and that He's our best friend, and that He owns everything, If we instill this in people through a culture and through systematically teaching, then you're doing the highest good for all people. So these two concepts go together, and that's what our Krishna consciousness movement is. What do you think? Is that doable? I'm not convinced. Okay, now I'm a little convinced. So let's see if there's any reflections or questions. Since everybody agreed, you might not have any. Except for, like, how do I sign up? Do you want to reflect back? Anything that you heard so far? Yes.
Maharaj, you were talking about how Maya is very difficult to work with, and when you were discussing that, it suddenly, when we go visit friends, especially in India, a lot of them have dogs. So if you try to open that gate and you hear the whoa, you're like, uh-oh, I'm not going anywhere near. But if the owner comes out and calls the dog and gives it a chance to get to know you, then you're welcome into the space. And I was thinking that sometimes it's like that with Maya too. Like if you want to enter, she's that strong because she's protecting the fortress. But if you ask the owner to come out and
that's
hold her
nice.
down, it's a lot easier.
Thank you. So we should call out when we chant, please let me in. I'm your servant. Bali Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I like your point very much about the quota and stipend. You are entitled to get either this one. I know there was a room conversation with Prabhupada stating that one Baba, means sadhus in India, how he can manipulate your karma, means your quota, which is supposed to be getting in, let's say, in 20 years later or next life. So he has the tricks to bring you back to the now. But that doesn't mean that anything extra you are getting, you are just availing it instead of getting it after some year. Now those things, so somehow they have a manipulative path to do that one. So Prabhupada saying, bottom line is, what you are supposed to get it, you are getting it. It is just the manipulations of the results of your karma. But ultimately, if you look into the span of your whole life, you have to come to the stage.
So why is it that you like that principle? You noticed that you liked it. What is it you like about it?
Well,
that you're we're all on a fixed income. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Yes, I like it very much because we should not aspire too much, because Narad Muni says we have to go for the apavarga gacchati, right? Not pa means, pa varga, pa pha bhava ma, parishram, phala, babaya, bhaya and mrityu. So unnecessarily, what is the need of extra endeavor? You can work 4 hours, 6 hours, you are entitled to get that much, and remaining you should dedicate for God's service. That is important.
Thank you, Prabhu. May I propose an exception and see if it could be authorized? Let's just say someone takes it as their service to work a little harder, to give more, to serve. And so they lean in a little harder to working, but their whole motivation is that they want to have a breakthrough and earn a lot of extra artha so that they can use it to spread Krishna consciousness. How do you feel about that? For the record, I'm getting a thumbs up from Bali Prabhu. Of course, we have to distinguish, to study our motive, because we can use this principle of using things in Krishna's service and then think, yeah, that's for Krishna, kind of. And so there may be those that are, that's their service. They're working harder because they want to establish something and, use the wealth that they get. And so they're trying a little harder because maybe their allotment's a little bigger, and if they try a little harder, they'll get something more. Yes.
Maharaj, when we read the Prabhupada Leelamrita, we get to a point in the very beginning when one of the devotees wanted to quit his job and stay, and Prabhupada tells him, don't do that, we need the money. You keep working and then give that money to Krishna. And then the other side, there's Prabhupada, who was thinking his Maharaj wanted him to go out there and preach, and he thought, let me earn all the money first, and then I'll go out and preach. But it never kind of worked out for him. Krishna only wanted him not the money he could bring. So sometimes the motive, as you said, it comes from a higher instruction to figure out if that is your job or not. That was my thought, Maharaj.
Yes, and Prabhupada mentions how he became frustrated, and that frustration led him to a certain direction in doing his service. And that will happen for us also, if it hasn't already happened to you, that you felt frustrated in some ways in your life, or had incidents in your life that seemed overwhelming. Often in those times we get an inner resolve to take more shelter of Krishna and look for his guidance in our life. After all, he's moving everything. Remember the verse we just read from Prahlad, and Prahlad mentions that everything that's coming is Krishna's energy. So he might want something, even as we're spreading Krishna consciousness and doing this work sincerely to try to do good for others by giving people spiritual knowledge and so forth, we may be moved in a certain direction that we didn't think was the direction. And it might turn out, well, it will turn out eventually, as we're watching, that was Krishna's arrangement for us. Yes. 1, 2.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Regarding this point that you were saying about, working less versus working more, I was thinking that, as we have heard before, we have to do our own duty than doing the duty of someone else, because Guru and Krishna knows how to use our abilities, how to use the best of our abilities to improve in our spiritual life and thereby, help the movement. So, for one person, the Guru might decide that he'll do good by becoming a full-time preacher in the temple, because that's what his natural proclivity is. Whereas for the other person, it might be something else, going out in the world and getting funds for temple or something. So if we try to do the other thing, it might not necessarily work out. So whatever, the Guru knows our nature as well. So.
Thank you. Was that covered under my exemption? Did I mention? Okay, I want to make sure. Okay, Pavani Bhakti.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I really like the point of giving an opportunity for everyone to practice devotional service. I'm looking for some advice, tips, or guidance on how do we give this opportunity to the co-workers, because we spend more than sometimes 10 hours a day with these people. And there's a lot of compassion I have, but I don't know the right thing, how to engage them in devotional service.
An expert at that is Shraddha Devi Dasi. She's really expert. The way she interacts with people in her life, in her work, she's always accommodating and goes out of her way to make sure that people get things at her work. And then a lot of them then become very open to helping spread Krishna consciousness later on, because they just appreciate it. And I've seen that with many devotees who have this awareness that every person they're talking to has potential, that this is the highest way of seeing people, no matter what situation they're in at the present moment, as remembering their potential. In fact, it's said that the first consideration sometimes people have, or the lowest perspective, is that we judge people according to their past. And we say, okay, this is what they did in the past, that's who they are. And then a person with a higher perspective judges somebody according to their present position. Say, okay, forget the past. This is how they are now. But the highest perception of the most open-minded person, the Mahatma, is that he or she sees a person according to his or her future potential. That's all the best kinds of coaches, managers, and so forth. They have this kind of mood. They see the spark and then they fan it. And that's such a good analogy, fan the spark, that Prabhupada gave, that if you do that with everyone, whatever little opening you see, you should fan the spark. And of course, in some cases, when people don't want to have their spark fanned, and they're annoyed by it or not interested at all or averse to it, then the best way to serve them is to not push them or engage, not pushing in the first place, but not engaging them. Non-engagement. That's what's recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let them alone. And I've noticed in my life that people who are wholly uninterested oftentimes change their mind if we do leave them alone and set a good example. I'll give you an example of that from personal experience. We've been going down to Lytton Plaza since what year was our first Harinam at Lytton Plaza? For 20 points. Can you say? 2004. Thank you. Hansapriya, 2004. So 2004, we had our first Harinam Sankirtan. That means we went out publicly chanted at the Lytton Plaza. And soon after we started our chanting, which looked way different than it does now. We have a kind of mini festival going on down there. We had stand-up kirtan at that time. And there was a gentleman, and he was an Indian gentleman. I remember the first time he saw us chanting, and he became more than annoyed. It made him angry to see us there. And so he severely chastised us, and especially me, because I was singing, and he yelled at me. It's like, what are you doing? Go away, you shouldn't be doing this, and so forth. And all the devotees were very gentle and humble towards him. They didn't react or in any averse way. And then he did it again. We went out there on a regular basis, maybe once a month. And every time we saw him, I noticed that his chastisement became a little less vehement. And we just smiled at him and, appreciated him and went like this and everything like that. And it was about a year later when he'd see us every time. I don't know why he was down there every time we were. But I saw him softening. It was visible. And then one night, he came by, he kind of looked at us. I smiled at him in a wave, like, you're our old friend. And he walked past, and then he turned around and he came back and he came over and he gave me a big hug. And and then he became like our best advocate. You want to hear another story? Yes. Okay. So I have a godbrother named Sarvapalma, and we used to work together in the Chicago airport, not as baggage handlers, but we were pilots. We were distributing books because we had an opening given to us by the Supreme Court of the United States that we could practice our religion called Sankirtan, which also includes distributing transcendental literature to the public. And they ruled that the airports were a public place. So put the two together. So we used to go out every day to O'Hare Airport, many of us, and my godbrother Sarvapalma and I were out there together for several years, not in a row, but every day. And there was a worker out there who had a uniform and he pushed a wheelchair, and he really didn't like what we were doing for some reason. Some people just don't like it. So he used to try to interfere with Sarvapalma's distribution of books. And the way he would do it was he would flick pennies at him. He would stand a distance away and he'd flick them really hard, and they'd hit him. And then sometimes he'd slide him across the floor. So while Sarvapalma was introducing somebody to a book, they'd be talking, and all of a sudden, boom, penny hits on the floor. It's an odd kind of thing, and it sort of, people would look, what happened? So rather than becoming annoyed by being pelted with pennies, Sarvapalma, every time he got hit or one would slide into him, he would go, "Thank you," and he'd pick it up and put it in his pocket. "Thank you very much." Because Sarva was thinking, you don't know what you're doing. You're giving this to Krishna, and be careful. And that went on for months and months and months. Similar results. One day, the guy came over. He was a gigantic man. He looked like a grizzly bear. He was so big. And he came over, and Sarva's very thin, and he gave him a big hug. And then one day, when Sarva was out there, someone was threatening Sarva with physical harm. He was like, "Okay, come on, right now I'm going to hit you." And this big guy came out of nowhere and he said, "You're not touching my friend." And he stood right in front of him and protected him. For that day, he was Sarva's protector in that middle terminal. He used to work in what's called the Rotunda, which was the TWA in the middle of O'Hare Airport. And so, I forgot who asked the question. Yes. So, if we just take time, be patient with people, try to fan their spark, whatever it may be, then you notice over time people's hearts can change, and they can become allies. Yes. Prabhu.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hi.
Yeah. My wife and I, this is actually our first time here.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. We've been to ISKCON LA. I guess that's where Prabhupada declared the headquarters, I believe. But this temple is beautiful. It's our first time here. We've been meaning to come, but because of COVID, it's not been possible. But now everything is being made possible slowly but surely. Hopefully, nothing has to close down due to any kind of variant. Because this is just a wonderful group of devotees. This is amazing. The kirtan was amazing. I really enjoyed it. I had a couple questions. One was regarding the money. So basically what you're trying to say is that we need to earn money to sustain the family and to pay our bills, but whatever's extra should be utilized to donate to the temple and to propagate Krishna consciousness as far as we can take it. Correct? Is that what you were trying to say?
Slight nuance, if I may.
Sure.
It's not necessarily what's left over, but okay. There's an old book about financial planning. It's one of the smallest books you'll ever read. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon, and it's all about how to develop your wealth. And so the formula in the book is that you should pay yourself first. How much? 10% of your gross income. And if you don't have enough to put away, you should either earn more money or spend less. Put away 10%. And if you do that over time, invest it, and then compounded interest, over some time you'll be wealthy. So that's taking out of your gross. It's not waiting till it's left over. So in the similar way, you should pay Krishna first. So before you pay even yourself, pay the self of yourself. Atmanam akilatmanam. Krishna is the self of ourselves. So it means take the 10% out first, then pay yourself 10% from that, and then, or it doesn't have to be 10%, it can be a lot more. To pay Krishna, you can give everything. But that's the point, take it out.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's only right to pay Krishna first because he's the source of everything. So it's only right. It's only right. Okay, so that was my first question. The second is, this temple is open on Saturday and Sunday now?
Yes, Saturday and Sunday, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The hours you have to check on now for darshan, not open now. And the weekdays? Saturday, Sunday, yes.
Saturday,
we're
Sunday.
gradually opening up for COVID.
Okay, and then my final question. I'm sorry, I don't mean to pester you. My final question was, what do we have to do so that upon death, when we die, because we all die, we don't have to reincarnate in this universe, but instead we can leave this body and then join Krishna beyond, in the highest world? What do we have to do in this lifetime?
Think of Krishna. So practice thinking of Krishna throughout your life, and then you can think of him when you leave the world. And if you do that, then Krishna says, then you'll come back to me. So this is all practice practicing all the time. Well, we got the chance. Don't wait till it's too late. So we integrate it now. It wasn't pestering at all. It was really good questions, and
Great.
we're really happy you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Goodness gracious, we only have 2 minutes left. 2 minutes, right? Yeah. Okay, so we have just a couple minutes, and we're going to have an Artique ceremony. So we're going to all stand up in a second and put away the asanas back there, and then you can get a position, well-organized position here in the temple hall for darshan while we have our kirtan for the night. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you.
Isn't that so cute? Yes.
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale. You can come close if you want. Ate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Govinda Jai Jai, Gopala Jai Jai. Govinda Jai Jai, Gopala Jai Jai. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jai Jai. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jai Jai. Govinda Jai Jai, Gopala Jai Jai. Govinda Jai Jai, Gopala Jai Jai. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jai Jai. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jai Jai. Nitai Go Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Hari Bo, Nitai Go to Hari Bo. Nitai Go to Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Hari Bo, Nitai Go to Hari Bo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Haribo, 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 Jai Gaura Haribo. Jai Gaura Premanande. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prirajikacharya Stotarasti Shimad Apai Charanad Avind Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prirajikacharya Stotarasti Shimad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sagaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopina Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Tulsi Devi, Bhakti Devi, Jamuna Devi Ki Jai. Sambheda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glorious assembled devotees. All glorious assembled devotees. All glorious to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Our dear Lord Nrsingadev, Shri Lakshmi Nrsinga, if you so desire, please protect our dear Gauri. Keep her at your lotus feet and watch over her always. Thank you very much for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Namaste Narashingaya. Namaste Narashingaya. Praladadayine. Praladadayine. O Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. O Shilatankanakalaye. O Shilatankanakalaye. Hito Nashinga Parato Nashinga. Hito Nashinga Parato Nashinga. Oya toya toya mitato Nashinga. Oya toya toya mitato Nashinga. O Bahir Nashinga Hridaya Nashinga. Bahir Nashinga Hridaya Nashinga. O Narashinga Madhim Sharanam Prapade. O Narashinga Madhim Sharanam Prapade. Tava Kara Kamala Varinaka Madhuta Shinga. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Tava Kara Kamala Varinaka Adbhuta Shringam. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Adbhuta Shringam. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Narahari Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Narahari Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Prahlad Maharaj Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol भक्ति विघ्नविनाश नृसिंहदेव भगवान की भक्त श्रमणी प्रहलाद महाराज की जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे
Hare Krishna. We welcome all of you to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Could I have a little bit more volume on this, please? We welcome all of you to ISV, and we'd like to thank Vaisesika Prabhu for such a wonderful class today, followed by the Gaur Arti. Also today we have quite a few newcomers here to ISV, and we'd like to take a moment to welcome them. So we have Josh and his father, who are the friend and neighbor of Sachinanda Nimai Prabhu, who are Sachindra Prabhu, I'm sorry. And they're visiting ISV for the first time. Are you here? Please. Oh, Hare Krishna, welcome. Hare We also have Keshava Krishna Prabhu and Nanda Vinodini Mataji, who are moving here from Laguna Beach and joining ISV community. Are they here? Hare Krishna Mataji. What are the names of your sons, Mataji? Gauranga and Vishwambara are also coming. Also, are there any other first-timers who... Oh, Hare Krishna, welcome. What? Yes. My name is Kalki. This is Kalki and his wife who visit, and Vaishnavi, who are visiting here also. Yeah. And Mataji here? Reena Mataji, also, who's visiting ISU for the first time. Hare Krishna. So as ISV is opening up, slowly and surely, we would like to invite you to come back more often to visit us on our Saturday and Sunday programs. Oh, we have one more. Yes, Mataji. Dale? Dale Mataji also. Hare Krishna. Also today, Sunday feast, the sponsorships we have today are Sukeshwari Mataji, who is sponsoring the feast for her kidney donor as it's the first anniversary. Would you?
Hare Krishna, everybody. I really, really earnestly request everybody to pray for I don't know his name. He's a 28-year-old boy, and he passed away in an accident on July 16th. So I had my transplantation on July 17th, and I'm able to continue my services because of that soul. So I really earnestly want everybody to sincerely pray to Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan and Srila Prabhupada that he gets a body where he will be able to actually become Krishna conscious and go back home, back to Godhead. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
We also have this feast sponsored by Shama Karuna Prabhu and Shama Bhakta Prabhu, and they're sponsoring on the Shraddha Titi of their mother. Are you here? Or? Okay, they're also cooking the feast, so. And along with the feast, before we go into who exactly cooked, we also wanted to thank Balaram and Vaishnavi for helping their parents so diligently to cook the feast, and we'd love to see the next generation coming in, and Abai also coming in and stepping into the shoes of taking up kitchen services and other services around the temple. And now we'll announce the cooks.
Hare Krishna. Today's prasadam is cooked by Ananda Mataji, Bali Mardhan Prabhu, Bhagavati Mataji, Divyanand Prabhu, Gopi Priya Mataji, Santosh Prabhu, Shalini Mataji, Shriyam Prabhu, Shama Karuna Mataji, Shama Bhakta Prabhu, Tadiya Seva Prabhu, Balaram, Abai, and Vaishnavi.
Sorry. Yes. Okay. But right before that, if anybody wonders, she gets this list about 10 minutes before, and she memorizes all the names of the devotees who cooked each week and each program.
I just want to mention that we have a program for kids, adults, and the project is called Bhagavata Seva. We have online classes for kids from 0 to 15. This semester we have 2 modules. One module will teach the kids the stories from Srimad Bhagavatam, and the other one is from Itihasas and Puranas and Mahabharata. So the semester goes from August to December. So please, I think most of you would have got an email about all the details. In case you don't have any details about it, I will be outside with a paper and a pen on a small table. So please reach out to me. We have classes, the kids' classes. We have Chaitanya Charitamrita classes by Gaurang Darshan Prabhu. We also have art classes, cooking classes for kids. So please do enroll. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
After we sing the prasadam prayers, prasadam will be given to everyone in to-go boxes outside, so please line up and collect your to-go boxes on your way home. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Sharirat vijajal jyotendriya taheka jibe pele Vishaya Sogare Dharma de Dibayati Loba Muisu Durmati Take Jeta Katita Samsare Krishna Bodha Doyamoy Gori Bare Jivajay Shaprashad Annadi Lobai Shayanamrita Pao Radha Krishna Gunagao Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nita Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmari Vaishnave Swapapunya Vatam Rajan Vishaso Navijayate Prasade Sarva Dukhanam Anirasopajayate prasana chetaso yashu Buddhipaya Vatishtate Tvayopa Bhukta Shraganda Vasalankara Harchitaha Utishta Bojino Dasas Tavamayam Jayemahi Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasadaki Barhapidam Natavara Karnyo Karnikaram Bibradvasa Kanakakapisham Vaijayantim Chamalam Randran Venor Adhara Sudayan Udayan Goparindar Vrindaranyam Swapada Ramanam Pravishad Hitakirti Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavyabhiriditam Talmashapaham Shravana Mangalam Srimaratatam Bhuvigrinantiye Buridajana Krishna Kirtana Gananatana Kala Patojani Brajita Sadbhakta Valihamsa Chakra Madhupa Shreni Viharaspadam Karnanandikaladvahe Vahatu me Jiva Maru Prangane Shri Chaitanya Doyani Deta Valasa Lila Sudaswaduni Helondo Nitakeraya Vishadaya Pranmilaramodaya Shamya Shastra Vivaraya Rasadaya Chitarpito Madaya Shashvad Bhakti Vinodaya Samadaya Madhurya Maryadaya Shri Chaitanya Doyani Detavad Vuyaramodaya no carton Shri Vishnu Shravane Parikshira Bhavan Vaisesika Kirtane Pralada Smarane Tarangri Bhajane Lakshmi Pritu Pujane Akrurastva Vibandane Kapipati Dasyeta Sakyarjuna Sarvaswatma Nivedane Balerabhut Krishna Tiresham. One more time. Vaswatma Nivedane Balerabhut Krishna Tiresham Para Go Premanande Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Please come take prasadam. Hare Krishna. Prasadam is being served in the picnic area just outside.